the boss is coming!
Shit, oh, okay, I'm gonna block this stuff.
Hey man, I need some healing!
Light of the Protector, on it.
Hey man, I have bleeds and these fuckers are hitting me hard!
Blessing of Protection.
I'm still taking damage!
Fuck shit, Blessing of Sacrifice.
Man, these are dying slow!
Fuck, Avenger Shields, Righteousness, Blessed Hammer.
Hey man, stop dealing damage and just tank!
What? I just need to...
Hey man, I'm taking damage again!
How about you move from the fucking fire, you lazy ass DPS?
Jeez, why so toxic, man? I just... Oh, we wiped. Man, this tank sucks. You mean you got the wrong talents, rotations, legendaries, covenants? What's that? And more, you say?
Our new channel, Flame Online, needs help growing, so please consider liking and subscribing to the video. Also, if you like our stuff, make sure to enable those notifications since YouTube doesn't read minds, at least not that I'm aware of. Oh look, a mind reading guide video suggested on my front page of YouTube. Huh. Starting off with the first row of talents, all are viable. You want details, right? God damn it. People are always never satisfied. Well, friend, Holy Shield will be your ideal defensive option starting out in both raids and dungeons. It adds a passive increased chance of blocking and turns certain spells that hit you into attacks that can also be blocked, hence reducing the damage you take even further. What you need to know is that as opposed to a Prot warrior, your overall block chance cannot be actively influenced and it still remains low enough where you never make mitigation choices with it in mind. Its purpose is to lower your overall damage or smoothen out your damage intake over the course of a long fight. Once you do get more gear, you can go for Blessed Hammer instead. It doesn't offer as much tankiness as Holy Shield, but helps with gathering holy power more and is really good when kiting since the hammers remain in place and damage enemies in their path still. If the content you are pushing doesn't hurt you too much and you want a tad more damage, or you are struggling keeping up Shield of the Righteousness with not enough holy power generated, this one is your go-to. Otherwise, Redoubt is seeing some play in raids right now for the extra stamina and strength you get from it when farming or just really needing some more damage. Similar argument with Blessed Hammer. If you want to push that damage, go with Redoubt. Although it offers strength and stamina which have defensive properties as far as stats go, you still lose tankiness and overall damage mitigation by not picking Holy Shield, so really the choice is yours on what you pick here, based on what you do and how much gear you have. Moving down a bit, you have the all-rounder Crusader's Judgment. This baby provides you with the second charge for your Judgment spell. This essentially means more holy power, especially with the recess provided by Grand Crusader. This talent will become better and better the more you perfect your rotation, which is an important factor because if you fuck up your holy power management, you can either have too many spells off cooldown that need to be pressed, or get some weird downtime. Properly managing your generators and using this talent will make it so it will be extremely unlikely you'll ever not have holy power to consume or otherwise generate. Alternatively, in dungeons you can go with First Avenger. This works pretty well with the legendary that resets your Avenger's shield cooldown and is really nice in large AoE fights. It doesn't seem to outshine Crusader's Judgment in terms of tankiness in AoE and definitely not in single target. But the sheer fact that the shield hits 2 additional targets coupled with potential resets will make it easier to pick up large packs of mobs and build aggro, also fueling the Bulwark legendary that increases Shield of the Righteousness damage based on targets hits with Avenger's Shield, but more on that later. The third row is the crowd control row. Normally you would be going with Blinding Light for situations where you just need more CC. This applies in Mythic Plus more than anything, but can see some play in raids. On Huntsman, for instance, where you can use it on the Shades to break their cast if it would come out for whatever reason. Fist of Justice is good for fast Hammers of Justice in case long-range single-target, long-duration stuns are more useful for your group for whatever reason. Either way, pick what you can actually use efficiently the most, otherwise might as well not bother, which is a bad mentality to have. Prot Paladin is a fucking Batman utility belt. Imagine Batman saying, "Who cares if I get the grappling hook tonight? Not using it anyway." Do you want Batman to say that? No! You want Batman to say, I'm picking up Blinding Light and I'm going to learn how to use it and not be a chump. The fourth row is a survivability row, and basically all options are viable. Unbreakable Spirit is good for all content and is a solid universal pick. It reduces the cooldown of Ardent Defender, Bubble and Lay on Hands. Depending on your playstyle, you will most likely not get too much use out of Bubble or Divine Shield for the Grammar Police, but the Defender actually matters, especially with a certain conduit that helps you reduce its cooldown even more. However, if you don't need faster defensives but instead want more mobility, Cavalier is the alternative. There are a few raid fights I can think of where you would need a second charge of Divine Steed. It could be good in dungeons on certain affixes that will force you to kite away quick and often. I'm thinking Necrotic, Raging with no Soothes, Bolstering as well. Or maybe you will be doing a dungeon or raid that has a particular heavy hitting magic attack where Blessing of Spellwarding can come into play. This will replace your Blessing of Protection with its magic damage equivalent. Magic damage abilities are usually more common but hit less hard on average. There are a few exceptions, things like Rip Soul from Huntsman, or Hungering's obliterating rifts that could be soaked by someone, or Artificer soaking mechanics with the Blessing of Spellwarding. Bursting stacks from the Bursting affix can be negated from being applied to a target that has already been blessed with the ability, but it does not clear existing bursting stacks, however. Essentially, any ability that can be negated with the magical immunity can be countered with Blessing of Spellwarding at the cost of losing Bob, an incredible defensive that removes all bleeds, which there are plenty of in the raid and dungeons. Moving to the fifth row, Divine Purpose is your all-rounder. It has a chance to proc with a buff that lets you use a spender for free. That means a free Word of Glory or free Shield of the Righteous. It's RNG, sure, but over the course of a long fight, it adds up to more casts. If you want to specialize more on raid damage, Seraphim will be your alternative. It gives you nice windows of damage which you can time with your cooldowns and trinkets and so on. With its short cooldown, you can have it for every pillar of the Sludgefist boss, for instance. Holy Avenger is a situational pick. Although the holy power generation provides is off this world, it's still a 3-minute cooldown that pumps a lot of power into you every 3 minutes. Power you don't need as much in normal content. It works incredibly well for Sun King's Salvation when talented with the Hand of the Protector further down, since you can pop it and use the spenders for healing Kel'Thas instead, since on average the tank damage intake is not that high there, and the raw healing can contribute to the fight and can make a big difference in the end. It plays into Prot's ability to assist the group, so it might not be as comfortable for most to do, and if you are just starting out as Protection Paladin, we recommend Divine Purpose over everything. And we have a healing roll, ladies and gentlemen, and all options are viable. Listen, if there was ever a time to play Prot Paladin, it's now. There are very few specs in the game that have these many options be competitive. Hand of the Protector is a good pick for all content, works well in both raids and dungeons, and it makes it so your Word of Glory bonus healing apply to your group members as well. This can really turn into some party healing that will save people, where you can top them off from being something like, 10% HP all the way to full. If you go with Holy Avenger talent for Sun King so you can HPS some fools, you better take this as well. Other than that, this still implies you only using Word of Glory on the free casts or instead of Shield of the Righteous. So sacrificing your mitigation will have to be done very carefully. If you want to specialize a bit more, Consecrated Ground will be your Mythic Plus option. This increases the radius of consecration and it adds a slow component to the mobs inside. This has a few benefits that start from the premise that consecration adds to your damage intake reduction, hence you want to be in it at all times as much as possible. The slow is useful when kiting mobs, think dogs in Halls of Atonement that start to stack bleeds and you just want to boogie out to drop them, or boogie down, get it? Plus the increase in radius helps with maintaining it under as many enemies as possible, since some jump, some cast, and some just shoot without ever moving. Bastards. Not to mention, you will often move to dodge shit on the ground, and a larger consecration means it will be less likely that by dodging shit, you accidentally step out of it. Judgment of Light will be your raid healing choice. It does healing in dungeons as well, but the overall utility from it will mostly be lost since not as many people benefit from it. And the heals themselves are tiny, but when 20 people get to be healed for that tiny bit, it will add up. For instance, for my sorry-ass low-geared Prot Paladin, I had around 400 to 500 HPS just from hitting Judgment. and this does not imply you doing anything different in your rotation, except maybe spreading judgment on more targets, but that is a bit too much min-maxing than we like to recommend people do. And lastly, oh boy, Righteous Protector is your last row go-to for all content. It offers the most defensive power here. Reducing the cooldown of Wings and Guardian of Ancient Kings is amazing for your overall defensive uptime. Wings also gives you damage, of course, and most importantly, Avenging Wrath enables your Hammer of Wrath to be used. This means more damage, sure, but it means one extra source of holy power in your builder-spender rotation. And with the talent to increase its uptime overall, means overall more shields, and Words of Glory means a better paladin overall. Also gets better with the Mad Paragon Legendary, which we will discuss in a bit. We recommend this for all content when starting out or when pushing the toughest of content. Final Stand is a situational pick and can be used in some niches for its effect. Coupled with Unbreakable Spirit, this will give you an 8-second immune without losing aggro on targets, which would be the main reason you would normally never use Divine Shield. The aggro reset is catastrophic for your group if not managed properly, since you can lose a person in less time than it takes you to cast 2 spells. Final Stand is good in extreme situations, like tanking extremely large packs in dungeons that either do massive damage or apply stacking debuffs, of which removal can ensure you survive until the pack is dead. Same thing with raids, although less likely there than in dungeons. Essentially, this talent is good if you play in a pre-made group and you are planning on going ape shit for a few packs, and they know it, because no amount of immunity will be good if the mobs don't die faster than they can kill you once your immunity is over. Sanctified Wrath is another tanky option that turns your Wings into a legit defensive option by making Judgment generate 2 holy power and Wings lasting longer still. It will make your struggles with Shield of the Righteous a thing of the past through a massive holy power generation increase. Couple this with Crusader's Judgment and you will unlikely have a low uptime on Shield of the Righteous ever again. You lose the defensive value of Guardian of Ancient Kings being reduced as well, which you can normally have down to 3.5 minutes if played right with Righteous Protector, and even lower with some conduits. As with any tank and pretty much all specs right now, eye level is king in terms of stats. Eye level comes with strength and stamina on top of secondary stats. Strength and stamina are the building blocks of your build. Stamina is necessary for obvious reasons, and eye level usually gives you enough where you don't need to look for it in other places, while strength gives you a mediocre parry chance, which is not something you focus on, but good to know, and it scales your abilities to be more impactful, abilities like Shield of the Righteous. But the most important thing you are getting from eye level is just a bigger pool of stats, which will trump everything else. After that, when comparing 2 items of equal eye level, Haste followed by Mastery and Versatility are all fairly close to each other in value. Haste speeds up your rotation by giving you faster and more holy powers, resulting in more spenders, resulting in higher uptime on your mitigation up until 20% haste, which assures you have the necessary uptime on Shield of the Righteous. Mastery increases your passive block chance, which is one of the strongest types of mitigation after parry, considering they would both proc at the same rate. Mastery will also increase the damage reduction while you are inside Consecration and increase your overall damage output, which after surviving damage is usually your next focus as a tank. Versatility is self-explanatory. It raises the baseline power of all of your abilities by a small percentage, increases damage dealt, healing dealt, and damage reduction applied to you. So yeah, usually versatility starts to be better and better the more eye level you have. Crit is okay-ish at the bottom, but still gives parry and obviously critical attacks, which increase your output. For your weapon, you will get Celestial Guidance because we already talked about how good strength is, and pure DPS options should be something you choose once you are comfortable on the spec and know you don't need the defensive benefits of Celestial Guidance. For your chest, go with Eternal Skirmish and a Desolate Armor Kit when pushing tough content. Eternal Strength on your gloves and Fortified Avoidance for your cloak for overall all content. The cloak especially can add up to 2 to 3% damage reduction in raids when there's constant AoE damage to the entire raid. In keeping with your stat priority, take quick jewel cluster gems for your sockets and Tenet of Haste enchants for your rings. Obviously, these can be replaced with their Mastery or Versatility counterparts as you see fit based on what you feel you need as a protection paladin. When it comes to your alchemy consumables, Some will be obvious. Potion of Spectral Strength will be your go-to for all scenarios. It's an all-purpose potion if you cannot be bothered to min-max that much, and also the best DPS potion in AoE situations. Potion of Phantom Fire will be your single target potion for damage purposes. If you don't feel the need of extra tankiness, go damn, go big damn. The flask will be the Spectral Flask of Power, almost always. There are niches where the Stamina Flask can be useful if there's a boss mechanic that would one-shot you without it. Considering you have your mitigations up, that is unlikely at best, since the encounters are not designed to one-shot tanks as long as they are playing correctly. To go with the DPS potions, and in general anyway, Shadow Core Oil is your default, and as always, spiritual healing potions are always good to have in long fights. And we cannot forget the food, of course. Feasts can always be used if in a raid and someone is on the job, but normally the Tenebrous Crone Roast aspic will be your ideal choice. As of this recording, based on the research we made, there are two main covenants for Protection Paladin. Venthyr brings Ashen Hollow, which is a stupid large consecration-like ability. It's a big fat AoE effect on the ground that lasts for 30 seconds. You can use Hammer of Wrath on any target, doing double damage, plus the Hollow itself deals massive damage to enemies and healing to allies. It's essentially a steroid-filled consecration taken through a Dragon Ball 100G training course on a fucking 4-minute cooldowns. It does not have the same functions of consecration though, something to be mentioned. The Soulbinds offer you a variety of bonuses ranging from Nadia's Thrill Seeker, which gives you a large burst of haste when in combat, to Theotar's Soothing Shade for a large mastery buff while inside the effect, or General Draven's Hold Your Ground, which has strong benefits, mostly in raid, since in dungeons you will be moving a lot. And yes, Venthyr performs admirably in raids, and only in raids since the Covenant ability is okayish in dungeons. It's not bad, but feels awkward to get proper value out of an ability once every 4 minutes, unless that's how your group performs in dungeons. But instead, in dungeons, you would want to go for Kyrian, and our personal recommendation for all content. Kyrian is average in raids, but amazing in dungeons. Divine Toll is a very short cooldown ability that fires 5 Avenger shields at 5 different enemies around you, each with their own bouncy mechanic. Not only that, the conduit for it lets you have a high chance of firing additional shields on the same target, giving it some single target value as well. But the strength in Kyrian doesn't just come from the ability. The Phial of Serenity is a very strong tank ability in the effect that it has. It clears all debuffs that can be deadly for a tank. Bleeds, poisons, diseases, and curses to be precise, which this expansion has plenty of. And of course, let's not forget Necrotic. Who? That's right, say hello to another Necrotic reset. You are welcome. No really, simply by virtue of being a Kyrian, you can tank a raid boss for 1 or 2 mechanics more than any other tank, pick a dungeon pack that's meant to melt tanks through bleeds, twice as big as any other tank, and so on. These are just numbers to make my point. Point is, Phial is a tank's best friend. Add to that Pelagos, one of the best soulbinds in the game through combat meditation and let go of the past specifically, and you have major bursts of mastery at 1-minute intervals with all the tanky benefits. Although it may not be as good in raids as Venthyr is, it's pretty strong and much better overall if you want to dive into other content or even off-spec to Red or Holy who also use Kyrian. As for conduits, the potency one see Punish the Guilty as the best one to go for, with the Covenant specific Ring and Clarity in your case as the best second option. Although personally I like to go with Ring and Clarity when there is only one potency slot available as a priority. With endurance slots, which you will have plenty of, Resolute Defender is a prime candidate for the first slot. This is the conduit that reduces the cooldown of Ardent Defender every time you use Shield of the Righteous. More than that, while it's active, Ardent Defender's duration is extended by 20% for each Shield of the Righteous casted. Pair this up with a full bar of holy powers and a ready-to-be casted Divine Toll, and you will start to get some real value out of the cooldown. Royal Decree is the other conduit you can get, which simply reduces the overall cooldown of Guardian of Ancient Kings. This, paired with the Righteous Protector talent, can give you a Guardian of Ancient Kings almost every 2.5 minutes if played correctly. If you go the 3 Endurance path in your Soulbind, your third option can be Shielding Words. This will give you a decent chunk of HPS simply by casting Word of Glory on you or your party which you will probably be doing with the free casts anyway. Lastly, for the finesse, Light's Barding for the extended Divine Steed will ensure your successful travels from A to B, while Echoing Blessings buffs the target of your blessing with move speed or damage reduction based on what blessings you used. If you'd be doing PvP cause it's easy to get gear and upgrade it, go with the Sinful Gladiator's Badge of Ferocity and Sinful Gladiator's Insignia of Alacrity. These are basically very good because of the passive phase that you receive, and also one that can be procced and aligned with some of your cooldowns. But you might really want the Blood Spattered Scale from the other side, arguably the strongest defensive tank trinket in the game, which gives you a huge shield if you pop it in AoE. A similar one drops from Kael'thas's Sunstrider in the Splintered Heart of Valar, which has a cheat death built in. The problem with this is if you don't proc it, it's just a strength buff, but it is good when pushing content that can kill you unexpectedly. A worthy mention is the Inscrutable Quantum Device if you are focused on damage, usually in raids. Otherwise, simply use the highest high level trinket that gives you one of the main stats that you are looking for. And now, Legendaries. Welcome to the new age, people, where somehow the devs not only managed to make the talents competitive enough to have almost all of them as options, but Legendaries as well. Currently, we've been able to see 7 total Legendaries used by Mythic rating Paladins and high key pushers. Some are specific, some more general. We will look at only a few of the more popular ones, both in terms of gameplay, but also when it comes to the strength that they can provide you with. First of all, Relentless Inquisitor is a generic Paladin legendary, not specific to protection, that gives you a stacking haste buff every time you spend Holy Power, up to 5% total bonus haste. It lasts for 12 seconds and it gets refreshed every time you cast a finisher, meaning you will only drop this buff if you seriously mess up your rotation or want to for some masochistic reason. You masochist? What's a masochist, man? Mad Paragon is your best DPS option, working amazingly in raids and another generic Paladin legendary. This increases the damage of your Hammer of Wrath and makes it extend wings, which works with 2 of your last road talents. This synergizes better if you are Venthyr, by the way, for some big fat hammers. Magistrate's Judgment is also a generic legendary and is maybe the best one for maximum tankiness. Holy Power Economy can easily be translated into more Shield of the Righteous uptime, and in this case, more overall spenders that can work with Resolute Defender, if used on shields, to reduce the cooldown of Ardent Defender, or more heals if you so desire. In dungeons, there are 2 main options. For a more defensive approach, retaining a higher DPS output, Holy Avenger's Engraved Sigil is maybe one of the most popular ones out there. Your shield has a 35% chance to reset its cooldown. Pair this up with the First Avenger talent and you can generate some shields for that sweet synergy, although it's not limited to just that. Also, how cool is it to have 7 back-to-back shields, eh? Yep, that happened to me. And of course, the interrupt/silence values cannot be overlooked. Or screw all of that above and go with Bulwark of Righteous Fury. This gives your Shield of the Righteous more damage per target hit by Avenger's Shield, up to a maximum of 5 stacks. There is really zero defensive component for this, apart from the indirect tankiness provided by killing shit quicker so they hit you for fewer attacks overall. If you want to just craft one legendary for all Paladin specs, go with Relentless Inquisitor. If you want to maximize raid performance and you want to deal more damage, go with Mad Paragon. Otherwise, go with Magistrate's Judgment. For dungeons, we recommend Holy Avenger's Engraved Sigil. Either way, there are many options for different outcomes and performance, so if you like to spend the rest of your subscription in Torghast, craft them all! When you open, you usually want to start with Avenging Wrath and taunt into a Hammer of Wrath, then Judgment and Avenger's Shield. Drop Consecration down and proceed to the main rotation. Wings are not on the global cooldown, which is why you can taunt and pop them at the same time. There isn't really a universal opener. It depends on what you open on. Are you in range or next to the target? Will you be the main tank? Will you opening make it so that the target or targets will kill you before you build 3 Holy Power? Either have Holy Power stored if we are talking dungeons, which is really the only likely scenario where you can be chunked in the first few seconds. If the pool is that dangerous, add an Ardent Defender to your opener. or Divine Toll to quickly transition into a Shield of the Righteous. As a Venthyr, you want to start with Ashen Hollow first and always pair it with Wings due to their strong interaction. The priority sees Consecration at the top of your rotation to make sure you are standing in its effect at all times. Judgment next, followed by Hammer of Wrath if possible. Avenger's Shield is next on the priority list, Hammer of the Righteous or Blessed Hammer if talented, Refresh Consecration if all of the above are on cooldown. This rotation has the purpose of maximizing your holy power generation. The spenders will be situational, with the Shield of the Righteous being first and Word of Glory second, with the asterisk of it being situational as well. When you use Word of Glory as opposed to Shield of the Righteous will come down to your judgment as a tank. In AoE, it's important to also maximize threat, although not that hard for Paladin since the damage output is fairly high. Consecration is still number 1, followed by Avenger's Shield. Judgment next, with the Hammer of Wrath further down the list. The Hammer of Righteous last. Once again, if there is nothing else for you to do, refreshing Consecration is not bad here. All of these are meant to give you a sense of structure. As a protection paladin, you have a lot of tools to use. Ardent Defender is a strong and frequently usable defensive that can let you survive with low levels of HP active as a potential cheat death. Guardian of Ancient Kings is a 50% damage reduction wall. It will make surviving through an impossible scenario possible. It has a very long cooldown even when reduced by certain tools, so keep that in mind. Also, with the Royal Decree Conduit you can get a free Word of Glory. Divine Shield and Lay on Hands are on an even longer cooldown by default. Divine Shield, when popped, clears all negative effects and makes you immune to everything harmful. It also resets your aggro completely, which means once you pop this, your highest DPS ally will take all the aggro and die in a spectacular fashion, so use this wisely. Lay on Hands is a fat heal. Blessings also speak for themselves and should be used accordingly on party members once you get accustomed to the mechanics and know what shit does when shit happens. Although this has been maybe one of our longest guides yet, there is still plenty to talk about when it comes to Prot Paladin that we didn't put in the video. The Hammer of Wrath Discord is an amazing place to get more information by talking to people directly. A personal favorite of mine is actually the website tanknotes.com, managed by Panthea, one of the top theory crafter tanks out there and a paladin connoisseur who helped us with our guide. He and Lincoln are the guide writers on Icy Veins and Wowhead respectively and have helped us understand the spec by making sure we are not talking out of our asses. You can find Lincoln on Twitter, which he tweets a lot about WoW and other things. Link is down in the description. Thank you guys, and you can catch him in the Hammer of Wrath Discord as well, dear viewer. Of course, we like to show our appreciation to our patrons for supporting our channel. Thank you very much guys, you make all of this possible, and if you, dear viewer, are interested in supporting us a little bit more, the link to our Patreon page is down below. Make sure to catch us on twitch.tv/MarcelianOnline when we stream Prot Paladin goodness. Thank you for watching the video. See you next time.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.